Good evening and welcome to the Connecticut Department of Transportation's public information meeting for project number 0302-0023, Metro North Danbury Line Track and Slope Stabilization Project in the towns of Wilton and Bethel. My name is Ganesh Anandakumar and I work at GM2. GM2 is a consultant licensed engineer for this project, and we work with the Connecticut Department of Transportation to provide engineering support throughout the design and construction of the project. I'd like to welcome everyone who's taking the time to tune in for tonight's presentation. We hope it will be informative and that we are able to address your questions and concerns so that at the end of the presentation, you'll have a better understanding of the project. Before I get into the presentation and introduce the project team, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items and explain tonight's format. Our presentation will last approximately 20 minutes, and once it's completed, we'll host a live Q&A session. A recording of tonight's entire presentation, including the Q&A session, will be stored on the project webpage. The webpage can be found at https://portal.ct.gov/DOT Danbury track 0302-0023. Closed captioning, including non-English translations, will be available at the time. You'll have three means of communicating with us today during the live QA session. You can send an email, leave a voicemail, or chat with us during the Zoom Q&A feature. I'll go over these in more detail later. Please reference project number 302-23 when calling in. A voluntary post-meeting survey is available at portal.cd.gov/ctdot survey. The results of this survey will help us improve the public meetings going forward. We'd appreciate if you would take the time to complete the survey after tonight's presentation. The civil rights notice to the public is available at portal.cd.gov/DOT/business/office-office-title-6-page. The links to both the civil rights flyer and the survey are also located on the previously mentioned project webpage. The Connecticut Department of Transportation operates its programs and services without regard to race, color, and national origin in accordance with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. Any person who believes he or she has been aggrieved by any unlawful, discriminatory practice under Title VI may file a complaint with the CDDOT. For more information on the CDDOT's Civil Rights Program and the procedures to file a complaint, please contact Deborah Goss, the CDDOT Title VI Coordinator, at 860-594-2169. A complainant may file a complaint directly with the Federal Transit Administration or the Federal Highway Administration by filing a complaint with the FTA or FHWA, Office of Civil Rights. Attention, Title VI Program Coordinator. All relevant addresses to file a complaint are listed on the slide. A recording of this presentation will be posted online for further access to this information. Again, a recording of this presentation will be available on YouTube, and closed captioning will be available both on Zoom and YouTube. As I mentioned earlier, there'll be three means of communicating with the project team. The first is by sending an email to the project email address, which is dotproject0302-0023@cd.gov. The second is by leaving a voicemail at 860-594-2020. Please note that we'll be checking for emails and voicemails periodically during the presentation so that we can address your comments and answer your questions. Please also remember to leave your contact information if you leave a voicemail so that we may reach out to you directly if for any reason we can't get back to you during the live Q&A session. You can ask questions or provide comments through September 12th, 2024 via email or telephone. I'll go over the third option, which is the Zoom chat function next. This function is only available during tonight's live Q&A session. To ask a question or make a comment using the Zoom Q&A feature, click on the Q&A tool at the bottom of the Zoom webinar window. This will bring up the Zoom Q&A chat window. Type your question in the text box at the bottom. Once you have finished typing, you can hit send, and the project team will then see a question. On the screen, you'll see your and any other questions that have already been answered. Please know that even though you'll not see them yet, the project team have other questions to respond to and will respond to all questions in the order they are received. Note that the preferred method among the three is the chat option. Right now, I'll go through the agenda of today's meeting. I'll first introduce the project team, followed by the formal presentation of the design, where I'll explain existing conditions, define purpose and need, and explain proposed recommendations. Finally, I'll conclude the presentation with the live Q&A session. Sorry. I would now like to introduce the project team. With the Connecticut Department of Transportation, we have on the top left is Bart Sweeney, Division Chief of Bridges. To the right of him is Alvaro Garcia Jr., who's the Principal Engineer of the Consultant Bridge Design, Rail Bridges and Structures Unit. To the right of Al is Gregory Funk, who's the Project Manager for this project. Travis Karanja at the bottom left is the Project Engineer in the Rail Bridges and Structures Unit. H.W. Lochner is a design engineer on this project and will work with the CLE in the Connecticut Department of Transportation to bring the design to completion. Richard Bray is the project manager from Lochner. Finally, the picture to the right is myself from GM2. Dennis Gossow from GM2, who's not pictured here, will be the MC for the Q&A portion of tonight's presentation. We also have representatives from the towns of Wilton and Bethel attending this meeting. Finally, thank you for bearing with me while I went through the ground rules. This slide here shows the location map at site number 1, which is in Wilton. The project site at Wilton is located along the Norwalk River between Wilton Station and Route 7 overpass. Note that the project limits are approximate and may change slightly as the design progresses. The slide here shows an aerial view of the project site in Wilton. The highlighted region in red is the approximate project limits. The blue line indicates the approximate location of the proposed cross culvert. We have Route 7 going north and south of the site, and the Norwalk River to the north of the site as well. This slide here shows the location map for site number 2 in Bethel. The project site at Bethel is located along the Simpoc Pond to the east and Trowbridge Drive to the north, to the west. Note that the project limits are approximate and may change slightly as the design progresses. Again, this slide here shows the aerial view of the project site in Bethel. We have the highlighted region, which indicates the project limits. The blue box or the line indicates the proposed cross culvert at this project site. The schematic here shows the different track elements, some of which you're already familiar with. The train wheels travel on the rails, which are then fastened to the ties or the sleeper, which then rest on the ballast. The ballast is supported by the sub-ballast, and the sub-ballast are supported by the subgrade. Here are a couple of track site photos taken at the 2 sites. We have site 1 in Wilton to the left and site 2 in Bethel to the right. Note that these track segments were constructed more than 100 years ago as side hill embankments with steep slide slopes. These side embankments lead to frequent maintenance efforts by Metro North, some of which is partly due to slope erosion. This slide here shows the purpose need of this project. The purpose of the project are threefold. Firstly, we're trying to lower the Danbury branch track profile slightly to improve the embankment stability. Secondly, to reduce the frequency and extent of the required track maintenance by Metro North. And finally, to improve the drainage by installing cross culverts. The need of this project is the presence of a steep embankment with visible slope erosion, high levels of track maintenance by Metro North. We also know that saturated track roadbed, which frequently impacts rail operations. The presence of substandard track shoulders is also not good. Finally, the goals of this project is to improve the safety and reliability for operations on this branch line and to reduce any abnormal maintenance efforts associated with these sites. This slide here shows the general plan and profile at site number 1 in Wilton, which covers about 1,500 feet of Metro North Danbury line. As you can see, the dashed line indicates the location of the proposed pipe culvert, which is used for draining stormwater. The slide also shows the location of the proposed reinforced concrete pipe culvert, the location of the plant retaining wall indicated in teal color adjacent to the Route 7 overpass, which will be used to minimize track flooding. Again, this slide here indicates a zoomed in profile at site number 1, where we're trying to undercut or reduce the track profile by a maximum of 12 inches. The plot here shows the existing profile shown as dashed lines and the proposed profile as solid line before and after undercutting. The same for site number 2 in Bethel. We have the general plan and profile at site number 2 in Bethel. Here we cover about 1,000 feet of Metro North Danbury line. The location of the proposed reinforced pipe culvert is also shown, which we'll be using for stormwater drainage. This slide here shows the zoomed in profile at site number 2 and in Bethel, where we're trying to undercut the track profile by a maximum of 12 inches. The side here, the same thing, we are showing the existing profile as dashed line and the proposed profile as solid line. The existing and proposed typical section is shown in the slide at both the sites. The proposed section consists of a minimum of 1 feet shoulder on either sides of the track, 12-inch minimum clean ballast, realigned rails, and realigned timber tie as well. To summarize the scope of work at site number 1 in Wilton, we are undercutting the track for about 1,300 feet, thereby improving slope stability. We're trying to replace contaminated ballast below the ties. In terms of drainage improvements, we're improving the track side swale capacity, replacing cross culvert, which will be in approximately the same location as the buried masonry culvert, which is shown in historical records, and also constructing about 100 linear feet of retaining wall adjacent to track and Route 7 overpass to prevent flooding of the tracks. There are 2 photos shown here. The top right photo shows the outlet of the existing stone masonry culvert, and the bottom photo shows the existing swale next to the track and beneath the Route 7 overpass. To summarize the scope of work at site number 2, we're undercutting the track for about 1,000 linear feet, thereby improving slope stability and replacing contaminated ballast below the ties. In terms of drainage improvements, we are regrading the trackside swales and also constructing a cross culvert for drainage purposes. This photo here shows the potential outlet for the proposed cross culvert as well. In terms of contractor access, we have 2 locations for site number 1 in Wilton, where the contractor can access the site number 1. To the left, we have the Wilton train station, which is located at mile point 7.30. To the right, we have the grade crossing at Cannon Road, which is located at mile point 8.84. At site number 2 in Bethel, we have 2 contractor access locations. One at mile point 7.19 grade crossing, which is grade crossing at Long Ridge Road in Reading, or the second at mile point 20.44 at Taylor Avenue in Bethel. Here are some additional project information for the project. There will be no relocation of utilities required. We don't anticipate temporary or permanent property impacts, meaning all the work will be done within the state right of way. However, we will be having impacts to the Danbury Metro North line. We anticipate the track to be closed over several weekends for the contractor to perform the undercutting at both sites. The installation of cross culverts is expected to occur before the track undercutting. Ahead of the construction work, there will be press releases and notifications in the town websites indicating the weekends over which the track will be closed and how the public can get to and from the Danbury and Norwalk line. In terms of permits, we are impacting both wetlands and watercourses at both the sites. This slide shows the potential permits from different agencies. From Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, we have Inland Wetland General Permit, Individual Flood Management General Permit, Stormwater General Permit. In terms of U.S. Army Corps agency, we have the Self-Verification General Permit number 19. The slide here shows the preliminary construction and cost for the project. The construction is scheduled to anticipated to start in the spring of 2026 and end in the summer of 2026 as well. The anticipated cost for the project is about like $4 million, with 80% of the cost coming in from the federal government and 20% coming in from the state government as well. Note that there will be no cost to the towns. This concludes our formal presentation this evening. At this point, I'll turn things over to Dennis, who will lead the question and answer session of tonight's presentation.
Thanks, Ganesh. My name is Dennis Garceau. I work with GM2 Associates. We are the consultant liaison engineer on behalf of the Connecticut DOT on this project 0302-0023. One of the things before we get started in the Q&A session, I just wanted to mention that this webinar was not live streamed using YouTube. However, the recording will be available on YouTube sometime tomorrow to be viewed. Apologize for any inconvenience for that. Moving on. So through the chat function, that's where you can post any of your questions, and we'll kind of go through them one by one with the panelists. Let's see here. Actually, there's a couple of questions coming in. One of the questions is, did the recent rain and flooding affect any of these areas? I heard some areas of track are closed. Are these open now?
Yeah, Dennis, I can answer that one. So good evening, everyone. My name is Gregory Funk. I am the Connecticut DOT project manager for this project. Regarding the recent weather, we did not receive any reports that the recent weather impacted any of the project limits, although the Danbury line was impacted. Currently, however, all of the Danbury line is on a normal train schedule, and currently only the Waterbury line has disrupted service. Thank you.
There's also another question came in. To confirm, does this mean no impact to the tracks during Monday to Friday commuter hours? There will be normal service?
The intent is to have normal service. There is expected to be several weekend outages for the work, and there will be a lot of work done outside of the commuter time at nighttime closures of the track.
I'll wait for a couple more questions to filter in. Just kind of go over some housekeeping again. Outside of the Zoom chat during the meeting, you can also ask questions by email at dotproject0302-0023@ct.gov or by phone at the number of 860-594-2020 with a voicemail. Please make sure to reference the project number 0302-0023. And other information you can get after this meeting about the project. We also have a project webpage, http://portal.ct.gov DOT Danbury track 03023-0023. You also notice that in the webinar chat, a lot of this information is added to that chat for your convenience. Let's see, it looks like we have a question that came in. What will the noise level be? Looks like Gregory's going to answer that question.
Yeah, so for this project, thank you, Dennis. The noise level must be below 90 decibels at a residence or an occupied building nearest to the site. So that's your equivalent sound to, say, a hairdryer or a power tool.
Thanks, Greg. Eventually, there's another question. Eventually, we would like to increase service frequency. Will this provide any opportunity to increase service? It's like Richard Bray from Lochner is going to answer that question. Richard?
And this is going to improve the reliability and maintenance of the existing service, but it is not intended. We're not increasing track capacity from the project.
Next question is, will there be any impact to available parking spots and commuter lots at Wilton and Bethel? Thanks for this call. Super helpful.
So Greg here again, we do not anticipate any impact to the parking spots at the commuter lot at this time.
All right. I have another question. What can I expect for noise levels for this project? I think we answered that already, did we not?
Yes, we just answered that one. So the noise levels have to be below 90 decibels at any residence or building. And I was comparing the sound to around a hairdryer or power tool.
Thanks, Greg. Another question coming in. When do we anticipate this project happening? Who's going to answer that one?
I can take that one as well. So we are anticipating construction to start and end during the 2026 construction season. So this would typically be between April and November, but this is all dependent on the track outage and equipment availability for the track undercutting work.
Thanks, Greg. Again, let's kind of go through, keep in mind that following this meeting, there'll be a comment period that will be open through September 12th, 2024, which outside of this meeting, you can communicate any of the questions that you may have by email at dotproject 0302-0023 leaving a voicemail on phone number 860-594-2020. Making sure to reference the project number again, 0302-0023. And for more information following this meeting, the project website will be webpage will be available at http://portal.ct.gov DOT Danbury track 03023-0023. And also there'll be a recording posted on YouTube in the next day or so as well. It's like other questions. Will there be any passenger accommodations for track disruptions? Looks like Greg has that one again. Another one.
Yeah, so
Greg?
currently the Connecticut DOT is evaluating options, which may include optimizing workflows to reduce any schedule disruptions or providing busing from Danbury to Norwalk during track outage periods. However, this has not been finalized.
See if there's any more questions coming in. Another question, will there be any impact to the embankment on the Trowbridge side of the track? We are at 16 Trowbridge, right above the construction. It's like,
Yeah, there is.
Go ahead,
Yeah, there
Richard,
is.
sorry.
No, that's fine, Dennis. There is no planned impact on that steep slope going up to Trowbridge. We are working alongside the track and towards the Simpog Pond only.
Thank you, Richard. Looks like, I think one of the questions you just said, actually, let's see. There was a question and I just want to make sure that it was answered. To confirm, does this mean no impact to the tracks during Monday to Friday commuter hours? There will be normal service. I think, was that answered?
Yeah, it was answered. Well, similarly, again, the intent of the project is to work on nighttime, overnight closures, and then we will have several weekend closures. So the intent is that that would be from Friday evening through Sunday with commuters restored by Monday morning. That is the intent of the project.
And said another question, where will the contractor access the track with their equipment?
I mean, as I mentioned earlier, there's a couple of spots for both the sites that the contractor can access, enter and exit, enter and exit the Danbury branch with track-mounted equipment, at the nearest grade crossing, both north and south of the project site. Thank you.
Thank you, Ganesh. Just a quick reminder that all your questions can be received through basically the Q&A function and not the webinar chat function, just so you know. Looks like all our questions so far have been answered. Just one more reminder again, there'll be a comment period that'll be open for another 2 weeks, September 12th, 2024, which you can basically ask your questions either by email at dotproject0302-0023@ct.gov or by phone, leaving a message referencing the project number at 860-594-2020. right, we'll give everyone one more minute, and then we will conclude the VPIM for tonight. And on behalf of the Connecticut DOT, I'd like to thank everyone for participating in this VPIM tonight for this project, State Project 03023-0023. And just to remind you again that if you do have questions, you think of something after the meeting is concluded, you can ask those questions by email or by phone as shown on the screen. All right, I think that concludes the meeting for tonight. Thank you, everyone.